Family, is Nomsa here at Ngosi Talk Shows. Find your own voice, lead from within. With me today, I have Kamal, Ama, and Carol Ann. How are you guys?
I'm good, thanks. How about you,
Very
Kamal?
well, thank you. Very well.
Awesome, awesome. So our topic today is the untold bond, unveiling the intriguing link between thoughts and emotions. In this thought-provoking video, we delve deep into the fascinating realm of mind to uncover the remarkable connection between thoughts and emotions. So join us as we unravel the untold bond that binds these two powerful forces together and discover what you need to know about these two linked together. And over to you, Kamal. I'm going to start with Carol Ann. Over to you, Carol Ann. What do you think about this topic?
Yeah, it is intriguing. When I saw it, I thought, oh yes, because there's such a tight bond. It's like, and I think there is this question, which comes first, the thought or the emotion? And it's just it's so quick. But actually being able to be aware of the two is where the power lies, and not collapse it all together, because that is where you get your actions, and your actions sort of cannot be appropriate sometimes. So it's about, being able to stop and just prize them apart and really explore. And that's it can be harder than it it's harder than being said. And there's something going on here right now. It's like there's a feeling there, and I don't know what the thoughts are, but there's something. And I do. It's like, what am I talking about? What am I talking about? Yeah. Like, what am I talking about? I don't know where my thoughts have gone. So it's just stops you in your tracks. You see there's that thought, the emotion, and then it's like the action, or in that case was non-action. Interesting. But being able to just identify them, pull them apart, and actually talk about them. And I think that's another key aspect, being able to talk about your emotions, about your thoughts, because very often we just suppress them, or we don't talk about them. We're frightened to talk about them, again, for whatever reason. So Kamal, what are your thoughts here, or emotions or feelings?
It's quite interesting, because when it comes to emotion, feelings, and I'm going to add behavior, because they are all related to one circuit. Oh my God, the words are falling out of my head. I think
Yeah.
it was,
and that's the action, isn't it? Behaviors. I was using the word action. Actions.
And
yes.
so it's called the cognitive triangle, right? Because it can go either way. A thought can create an emotion, which creates a behavior, or an emotion can create a thought, which in reverse creates the behavior, and they go with each other. Now, the interesting part about that, since they're all interconnected, is how well are you able to manage your emotional status so that you can think positively, and then in order for you to behave in the appropriate way of the situation. And I think there are a few processes or thoughts and processes actually, and things one can do, one can learn to have a balanced way of thinking and behaving, and of course feeling. Now, I know feelings and emotions are used as a flip coin in a sense, because which part is the feeling and which part is the emotion, and I make it quite simply, I explain it quite simply. emotion comes to emote, not the small emojis that you have on your texting, but to emote, to express outwardly what you are feeling internally. And so what and how are we processing the information or the event that is causing us to think, to feel, or to act in a certain way is the key to well, unlocking the truth behind it and unlocking your capabilities. I think that also comes into play with what you were talking about, Carol Ann, and they balance each other in a sense.
So what had you choose this topic, Nomsa?
What made me choose the topic is I've had a really deep thoughts this week about life. And the more I thought about it, the more I went deep. And then I realized actually my thoughts and my emotions are actually linked together. When I think of something, there's a reaction into my emotions that is actually reacting to that thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm able to actually respond whether I accept that emotion or I actually, instead of rejecting it, I'm like, this is not how I actually want to, I want to think, or this is not how I want to actually evaluate my life and or the event that I'll be thinking about. And also it is making me realize actually how our thoughts and our emotions, they actually shape our lives, how we see everything. Like what you were saying, Carol Ann, and also Kamau, you said how we process things. And that's what made me actually choose the topic. And also when we were talking about, when we were having interview with John Gray, when I was writing the feedback, because I had to write the feedback, and just thinking about things and thinking about life, and just realizing that, you know, we are so lucky to have this man in our for him coming into our lives, because when I talk to people, like people will be like, oh yeah, I love his book, I love his the book, like Men Are From, and the women that he wrote. And then I realized actually sometimes our thoughts can stop us getting where we need to be if we let them, and our emotions as well. And because they are not actually separate, they are actually tied in titles together, and they're deeply entwined together, and they influence each other. So, and I just thought that how I actually conducted John Gray, and I was like, if actually I had allowed my thoughts to actually talk me down or talk me out of is he actually going to listen to me? Or even the people that have been in my life, different people that I have conducted, that have actually shaped my life. If I have allowed my thoughts and my emotions, because there are some positive thoughts, there are some negative thoughts. So you just have to use cognitive appraisal to actually link them together and choose the ones that can save automatic, and then it just find that life. His video is going to go viral anyway, because of the thing that he has on YouTube. It's go high. When I look at it, when it goes, it's got a high. It's being shown on YouTube or high. It's gonna go viral, by the way. So don't be surprised. I might get maybe 40 or 30 views. So that's how I actually, when I looked on YouTube yesterday, how they've actually put his views on a high thing. What is it called? A W thing. What is that stand for? Is it WK? What is it? What is it? Well, I don't know how to translate the traffic. So and then that's when the topic came along, and I was like, let's just talk about this topic and just have fun with it, because sometimes our thoughts can actually stop us doing the things that we are meant to do, or we can actually talk ourselves out of what we need to do. But for me, I'm aware. I listen to you guys when you speak, so I'm aware of my thoughts. When my thoughts are trying to actually get me out of the things that I need to do, I'm actually aware of them. I say to my thoughts, no thoughts. Sometimes I have a go at them. No thoughts. You cannot talk me out of what I need to do, or you cannot talk me out of my destiny or whatever. So I just have to put them together and link them how I want them. Over to you, Keroan.
Yeah.
I don't know if it makes sense.
So it made sense. And I hear you saying that you've become aware of the thoughts behind your feelings and what's been stopping you. Or so you've been analyzing and just going deep, which is absolutely brilliant, because the more you can explore what's happening and what you're doing and why you're doing it, can you then start to unravel what's going on inside. But actually, yes, your thoughts and your feelings, your emotions are very linked, but they actually come from two different parts of the brain. And I did read this morning that there's sorry, I've got a frog in my throat again. This frog always seems to come. But I haven't sorted it out yet. It'll get sorted one day around talking, around speaking. But the social psychologists have discovered that emotional response to a given stimuli is milliseconds faster than a cognitive or thinking response. So just literally milliseconds. But the thought comes from the higher cortex, isn't it? The feeling, which is really stuck in my throat for some reason, is feeling. It's deeper in the brain. It's the amygdala, is it? The emotional center, which is very deep. But when you think milliseconds apart, it's amazing, isn't it? It's just that quick bit. But there is a thought, and I often think, well, if you stop, you feel what you feel, and then the thought, there's a thought behind it. So I can't help but wonder, is there a thought that actually happens before the feeling that actually isn't registered? I don't know. That's the question that comes in my head, because there has to be a thought there. Something prompts that emotional response. So what is it? And then when you actually get in tune with the two together, there is a thought there. So really, what did happen first? Is it maybe that it happens together? I've just had this sudden thought, like lightning and thunder. It happens in an instant, but they happen together. But you see one before you see the other, before you hear the other. You see the lightning and then you hear. But they happen in an instant. So I'm wondering if there's something in that conductivity in the brain. I don't know. I'm just hypothesizing here, because to me, something doesn't really make sense. There has to be something instantaneous together. There's a thought and an emotion that just happen. That, as I say, scientists at the moment are saying it's the emotion is a millisecond sooner than the thought. So, but it is pulling them apart, recognizing rather than, as I said, getting trapped in the two together. And it can affect how you your behavior totally. And when it reminds me of when my house got repossessed. I know there is that, what you think is where thought goes, energy flows. And I knew that even though I was worrying about what was going to happen in terms of the bailiffs coming, or if I got to repossession, what would happen? I knew by focusing on that, I was taking myself on that journey. I couldn't stop myself because there was a curiosity. I was like, I didn't know what happened. So I took myself there and I acknowledge that. And what actually happened when, at the time, I was actually in charge of my thoughts. I thought, okay, I'm going to face them. They're going to knock on the door. I need to face them. I'm here at D-Day now. And when they came, I was able to be totally present with the bailiffs. I let emotions or my mind run away with me. I'd done some meditation, brought myself into the moment and thought, okay, this is going to happen. And so I was able to have a conversation, say, right, so what happens next? And he'd said to me, well, you've got 2 weeks in which you can clear the house. So all of a sudden it's like, oh, that answers one worry. You're not going to chuck my stuff right on the street straight away, This was the 4-bedroomed extended semi that I'd got. So much stuff in it after 30 odd years of living there. But he said, no, you've got 2 weeks to clear, but you in those 2 weeks you need to choose a day. I think I chose 2 days to actually go, and I cleared, because that was another worry. How on earth am I going to clear all this stuff in this house that I'd accumulated over 30 plus years? What was I going to do with it? Where was it going to go? It all got answered. And a lot of it's still in storage 14 years later. But I've managed to keep downsizing that. Managed to now get into there and sort that. That's another story. But actually being able to face bailiffs in that moment took me to really focus on my thoughts, what I was thinking, rather than, oh my God, they're going to be horrible. I'm not going to manage this. I took charge and then went from there. So it is that, what are your thoughts about this? What comes first, Kamal?
I mean, what comes first or not? I mean, let's break it down, right? You're in an event, whatever your event, let's talk about your situation, right? The bailiff comes knocking at the door and you're like, there you are, you're in this event. And that's exactly like the psychologist or the researchers were saying, you suddenly have a burst of emotion. And that emotion causes you to think about, what am I going to do, right? And so forth, your behavior. So I can agree with this, even though it's a millisecond. However, what I would like to remind people is that we still have the opportunity to change from that, to change our actions from that emotion to thought to then behavior. And this is where our personal growth and control comes into play. And I think this is very nicely exemplified by the quote of Viktor Frankl, which is, between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. And I always keep reminding myself about this quote because in any given moment of our life, we are faced with multiple events that can cause us to react a certain way. And this is what I was talking about at the start, which is the balance that you have between those three. And so balancing your emotions, your thoughts, revolving that emotion, and your response or your behavior creates a sort of contentment or peace in your life. And this is specifically what you did, Carol Ann, when you said, you know what, it will sort itself out. This is what am I going to do now? And then you said, okay, fine, let it be. And then things with time sorted themselves out. But you believed it, you thought about it, and this is how things happened. Now, contrary to what Nomsa was saying, yeah, you have negative thoughts, positive thoughts. I want to very much put pressure on the fact that there are no negative thoughts, there are no positive thoughts, they're just thoughts. And how we perceive them, how we intend to create those thoughts or enact those thoughts are the result of whether or not they will be, between quotation, positive or negative. In my personal opinion and experience, anything that I have encountered in my life has constantly been for the upgrading and growth of my life. And I did not see it previously until at that time, whenever anything happened, I could not see or perceive that it was happening for the best. And it took me several years to understand that, you know what, it doesn't matter, whatever happens to me, it is for the best. We do not see the result before a few years. It can be 2, it can be 5, it can be 10, and it could be never, because in that case we had not learned from that event. And coming back to our what we were discussing, the thoughts and the emotions, an emotionally stable person will definitely be able to manage their thoughts in a way that it suits them. Like you were saying, Carol Ann, where the energy goes, the thoughts flow, or whatever this, or the other way around, where your thoughts go, your energy flows. And that's the whole concept of, between quotation again, positive thinking. It's the same idea behind positive psychology, how to positively impact your mind, your thoughts, in order for you to have the best behavior and outcome possible to your responses, to the events, to your emotions. The repetition of that on a constant basis creates a sort of bond, habit to you, and that habit in turn becomes a belief. Now, be it strong or weak, that will depend on you personally. Another reason why people that are sad, upset, and I'm going to use this term very loosely, depressed, I'm not talking clinically now, but those that believe that they are depressed or in a depressive state, sad, more or less, a little bit extra sad. This is why we push them to say, wake up in the morning, smile to yourself, say you're doing well, say that you're going to have a better day, say that you're going to have a wonderful day, say that you're confident, boost your morale up, because the repetition of it creates a positive enzyme, creates positive energy within you and causes you to think that way, contrary to doing the same thought of negative thinking, which is, I can't do this, I'm not capable, limiting yourself to your capabilities. And we constantly do that as well with our emotions. And so by doing that to our emotions, we do it to our thoughts, and by doing it to our thoughts, we do it to our actions. In essence, a person that thinks, that feels that they are not qualified for a job, they think, oh, maybe they won't call me, and if they call me, I'm not sure they will take me, and so they get called. Oh, I was just lucky, it was just a fluke. Most of the cases, there's a high probability that they will do a very bad interview, because they were in that constant thought and emotional state where they are not confident enough, where they don't believe these good things should happen to them. I rambled a lot, and I hope I did give my thoughts here, but I do ramble a lot. So, Nomsa, what are your thoughts on what we were talking about, Carol Ann and myself?
I'm just gonna come and comment about negative and positive thoughts. and about Carol Anna, how she handled the situation. Some people wouldn't be able to face that. There are some people who have survived what Carol Anna have survived. But there are some people who haven't because of how they think, because of their thoughts. Some people, they find an easy way is to take their own life when it comes to when things are not working. So that means that there are positive thoughts, there are negative thoughts that can affect our lives. And how Carol Anna handled her situation that moment is how she actually decided to respond in that moment. And there was a time, I think it was a month ago, I was listening to one of the videos on YouTube regarding thoughts and everything. So I started actually analyzing my thoughts, how I've been thinking about finances. Then I realized actually the mindset that I had about my finances is the mindset that is actually affecting me, is causing a stumbling block. I was able to realize it straight away. So in that moment, I had to work on my thoughts so they can shape the positive in my finances. And that's when I realized actually our thoughts can shape how our life is. It can shape our lives, how we are able to move forward, how we think is very, very important. So now, every time I have a negative thoughts, I have to erase it. I have to cancel it because I've realized it's actually affecting me moving forward. Before I did this a few times in front of the mirror, affirmation and things like that. And I actually realized it does not go to my head. I stopped because I just laughed and I was like, I'm just talking this and it's not working. But for some people it works. But for me now, I actually fast. And I fast 2 days a week and maybe 3 days a week. Or sometimes I go to a dry fast for 3 days. That is helping me to actually activate my inner winning spirit so that whenever there is a blockage in my thoughts, I get help to actually correct that. And I've realized that there's been times where people in my family, they want to make a decision. Since I've decided I'm not going to do the affirmation in front of the mirror, but I'm just going to communicate using my beliefs anyway, connect with God and actually focus. I've realized that if there is somebody, when I fast, if there is somebody in my family that is making a decision, but if they're making the wrong decision, I get pulled in to actually help them out to go direct where they're meant to go. But it doesn't happen it doesn't happen because I want it to happen, because I pray for my family and say, I don't want my family to suffer. I don't want my family to live in poverty. I don't want my family to make the wrong decision. So I end up being pulled to correct whatever the thoughts whatever the decisions they want to make. But then as the time goes by, it was yesterday, actually, I realized I'm being led, guided through every decision that I'm making now, because I'm asking God to actually help me with my thoughts, because the thoughts, they become reality, how we think. And our emotions, if we let them take over, if they are negative, and for me, I have realized that there's some things in my life that I have gone through challenges based on my thoughts, based on my emotions. I don't know what you guys think, but that's my own behavior that I have realized that actually the way I'm responding to my core beliefs, because these things, they are actually whether they are positive, whether they're negative, they can actually shape my well-being. So that's when I've realized actually starting to identify how I've been holding my life. And it is real. It's not like yesterday, Kamala, when we were talking, I said to you, I like anyone that I work with, I like them to have a voice, because I've realized with me how I have stopped myself moving forward, thinking that relying on somebody else to make a decision for me, instead of making that decision and then seeking assistance for somebody to actually sit down and evaluate that decision, and also letting God make a choice for me. But I've stopped myself saying I can't do this because I'm this, or by using my thoughts. So that's why for me it's very, very important for people that are watching to realize that our thoughts, the way we think each and every day, can actually cause a stumbling block into our lives without us realizing, because they become things, like Bob Proctor says. But when he said it, when I was listening to him before, I could not understand why. But now, because I have witnessed it myself, my own story, that I have caused a stumbling block in so many things in my life.
It's a great awareness.
Yeah.
And it is recognizing that you've caused the stumbling block in your life. And something just recently that when I was with one of my friends the last couple of weeks, we did some work, and I was talking about I feel blocked with my writing and with moving forward with my business. And we reframed this blocked. And she did talk me through something, and we looked at it a different way. And I suddenly realized I could see in my mind's eye, as we were talking, this block just changed. And actually I realized the block was me. I had put this block around me. And once I had moved it, changed, transformed it, it was like, whoa, my goodness, I'm bigger than this, I'm free. And I just laughed. I thought, the joke is, it's me that's created the block. So yes, what you're saying is you created the stumbling blocks. Once we can catch that, that's the power, all of a sudden it's like, whoa, what a joke. What do we do to ourselves? Absolutely amazing. But what you're saying, Kamal, about getting out of bed and smiling to ourselves in the morning, it reminded me there's something that maybe people need to be aware of, that actually a smile can actually switch people off. And it's just being able to check in with your body. And I'm an educational kinesiologist, and kinesiology is about body movement, about looking at the body and how it moves. Educational kinesiology is drawing out learning through movement. And somebody brought another check into with balance, one of the processes we were doing, and it was about bringing in a smile and a frown, and actually checking in with your body, whether it made you low gear, which is like it switched you off and you moved away from it, or whether you could then, you were functioning, all your thoughts and your brain was in high gear, so you could actually take action. And I realized actually, when I muscle checked my body, I was low gear for a smile. It literally turned me off. And then so we can do some processing, do some ranging, or do some tapping. If you know tapping, if you become aware of it, so you can actually transform that. So you can see a smile, you can see someone else's smile, you can see your own smile, and know that it can actually switch the whole of your brain on, and you can then become happy, and then you can take the action. And it's the same with affirmations. People don't realize that sometimes the affirmations, we're not in our body, our body's not in tune with it. Actually, there's a low gear response. There's something in us that goes, no, 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 and doesn't agree. So you've got this conflict going on. So you do need to be aware of how it is affecting you. And this is where kinesiology is a great tool to be able to check in with your body, see what the stress is. If there's stress, if there's something that's turning you off, switching your brain off, or whether it's switching you on. And then you can do something about that. So that's something that, I became aware of. And maybe there's something else that wants to be said. I've been working on this frog. This frog is only put here by me. I can say what I want to say. There is what needs to be said can be said. And I did say what I wanted to say, and then all of a sudden it comes back again. It's probably something else popped in my head I want to say, and it's like, ooh, can I really say that? And that's what's going on in the background with me. Am I allowed to say this? There's some childhood stuff going on here. Am I allowed to say this? Am I going to get into trouble? Is this allowed? Everything's allowed. It's my thoughts. It's what I'm thinking. And they're perfectly valid to say. And I think this is something to be aware of. And so this is where your body responds. Listen to your body. It's always telling you something, whether it's emotional or there's a reaction in some way. Something is happening.
I think
So
what you're talking about here brings me to 2 points that came to mind. And the first point was, imagine this: you're scrolling through one of the social media, and you see a picture, and you are scared of, I don't know, let's say snakes, and your immediate response might be fear, right? But that's your brain responding, right, to what's happening. But if you manage to stop, take a moment, and realize it's simply a picture and it can't harm you, your emotional response does change, or could change, right? And so our thoughts at a certain level do shape our emotional reactions. So we have a first interaction, we have a thought, and then how we think of that creates a different emotional response. And this brings me to the second part that I want to talk about, which is, and which what you mentioned as well, it is the spectrum of emotions and motivation that we have. Now, emotions have different dimensions, and of course, we're not here talking about the multiverse of Marvel. We're talking the levels of emotions, right? According to research and psychology, emotions, if I remember correctly, they've been categorized in 2 scales. Let me see if I remember. The first one was valence, and the second one was arousal. Valence refers to whether the emotion is positive or negative, while the arousal, it refers to the intensity of the emotion. And adding on to that, some researchers do believe that there's a third dimension, and that third dimension is the motivational intensity. So when we're talking about the emotional intensity, we're talking about how high motivated or how highly motivational intensity of emotions are the ones that push us towards a specific goal. So if, for instance, you're feeling excited about working on a passionate project, the feeling of fear dissipates, right? And on the low end of that low motivational intensity of emotions, like sadness, when it starts to kick in after an experience of success or failure. So now you have two ranges, right? And these emotions, they encourage us to reassess, to rethink the situation, and to be open to new opportunities for the future. So I don't think emotions are just feelings, and this is what I mentioned in the beginning. Feelings and the emotions are quite, they're used quite loosely, in a sense that it's just a flip coin. One side is emotion, one side is feelings, and they're both together. It's a very complex system that helps us to navigate our lives, right? And so, which brings us to the point that we spoke about, the behavior and the self-control. This is where we come into. This is where we need to understand how we limit the resources of our brain in order to get the best outcome. Our brain is filled with resources. We can find so much stuff that can help us and that could steer us towards one side or the end, to make it simple, to steer it towards a negative thought, negative emotion, negative behavior, or positive on the other end. And to put it as like an anecdote or a story, think of it as your phone battery. Now, over the course of the day, you are using your phone and the battery level decreases. Now, similarly, when you exert your self-control, our ability to continue doing so as well decreases. So when you manage self-control, you can use it in a way to affect your negative emotions, and it helps you resist temptations and making bad decisions. And so we would be, in essence, less prone or less affected by negative situations or events. So the ability to control ourselves and resist temptation is constantly there, right? But it's like a muscle. Our thoughts, our emotions, and our behavior work exactly like muscles, where if you test it out, if you work it out, you will get worked out, obviously. But if you practice and you do your best, then you will find some sort of balance in each part of those. However, bear in mind that since it's a muscle, it will get tired. So don't overexert yourself. Take time to have some peace. Let go of everything. These are things that I have done, right? I have decided that, you know what, sometimes I'm going to let go of everything and do something that I enjoy, that relaxes me. Whether it's sit down and meditate, read a book that I enjoy, play games on the computer or on a PlayStation, where I empty my brain completely so that I can rest, because during the whole day, I'm thinking about these things. I'm paying attention. I'm paying attention to that space between the stimulus and response, so that I manage my emotional state at all times, because I want to better myself, because I want to improve how I am and how I live my life. But yeah, that's these are the thoughts that came to mind when you were speaking, Caroline.
No, and it is just, as you say, it is practice. It's also becoming comfortable with silence, with peace. Sometimes people are so, it scares them, actually. I find people that say, oh no, I can't sit quietly. I can't have quiet. I've got to have noise going on and got to be busy. There's something about being peaceful and in a still space that actually frightens some people, is that they can't go there. And what it is they're frightened of could be a myriad of things. Maybe it's their thoughts. What are they going to discover there? or maybe there's a fear of missing out. You know, what am I going to miss out if I'm not active? Or I might not get something done I should have got done, and what's going to be the consequences, a whole lot of things. But actually being able to practice that, being still, being peaceful, being in the moment, you find there's something absolutely amazing happens. You actually find yourself taking action just naturally, that is easy, it's speedy, and the impact is phenomenal, because what gets done is actually what needs to get done and doesn't need any correction or doesn't have any untoward impact, something that comes back in I hesitate to use the word negative way, because to me, negative and positive, you're in that 3D world of polarization. And actually we're moving out of that world. This whole ascension and an expansion of consciousness is about bringing us into unity, where there is no polarity. There is no right, there is no wrong, there's no good, there's no bad, there's no positive, there's no negative. There is what is. And it either works or it doesn't work for you. That's the thing, it's just being with it. And as you were saying, Kamal, right at the beginning, the thoughts are just thoughts. And it's just being with them. What happens with you emotionally is where it's sort of, you've gone with them, how you perceive them. So just being able to be with your thoughts. Let them come, let them go. Just be an observer of them. Be an observer of what's happening is a really peaceful, powerful place to get to. And it isn't something that happens overnight. So you need patience.
Yep.
Sorry, what were you going to say, Kamal?
No, I was sorry I didn't mean to interrupt you. I thought you were done, but it was what you're explaining here is the essence of meditation. A lot of people think that meditation is about not thinking about anything. However, it's about letting your thoughts pass through. And I know we're coming close, so I'm going to share this quick story that can sum up actually everything that we were discussing. In the late 60s and 70s, there was the marshmallow test. It's a very famous test. If people are not aware of it, it was done by a psychologist called Walter Michel, something like that. I can't remember his name. Walter Michel. And so in the study, they would put a child, and they were offered a choice between a small reward immediately or two small rewards as they waited for a short period of time. Now, and the reward was a marshmallow. So they put the children on a seat, on a table, and they put a marshmallow in front of them, and they would tell them, okay, so we need you to wait. If you wait a little bit, and when we come back, you'll get two marshmallows. But if you can't wait, you just take the marshmallow right now. And obviously it was maybe a marshmallow sometimes it was a biscuit, something else. Now, the test wasn't about patience itself, right? It was about self-control. It was about the interplay, the connection between the thoughts and the emotions and the spectrum of motivation that we were talking about. The kids who waited for the second marshmallow had expressed or exercised self-control, while the kids that didn't, they didn't use that self-control. It was based on their emotions. Back to the first kids, because I'm trying to remember things now. It was self-control, and it was also managing their emotions, because that excitement, oh my God, it's a marshmallow, it's sweet, it's nice, it's gonna, so they managed their emotions as well. And so when they thought about it, when they felt it, they managed to motivate themselves to have patience and wait for a larger reward. And so this sums up the whole story and the connection, the bond between the thoughts, the emotions, and the motivation or the behaviors. And what's important for our listeners to think about, like you mentioned, is to have that patience, to have that sense that it's all right. It is what it is. But it's also okay to act out. Have that marshmallow if you want to take it now. Burst out right now if it will make you feel safe and make you feel all right. It's simply how you have that emotional response, how you want to enact your days. Yeah, so that was it.
I like Kamal, what you're saying, because in the Bible, that's what it says as well, that if you want to receive more blessings, you have to learn to be patient. Patient, because when you are learning to be patient, it means, like for me, my beliefs are, if I am praying and asking for God to help me with the things that I want in life, it's not going to happen in my own time. So my thoughts are now, before I used to say when I'm doing things, why is not happening? Then I'll go and start comparing my life with somebody else because my thoughts, or like with my friends, I'll look at their lives and start comparing my life with theirs. But then now I'm in a point where when I'm praying for something, I know I've got to wait. I know I've got to be patient. I know that when that breakthrough comes, it's going to be bigger than I expect. And at the same time, in my emotions, I have to make sure that I'm stable, be able to actually accept that blessings that I'm asking for. Like you said, yesterday you said something. So I'm going for a running, and I was like, why was Kamal saying those things? It felt like you were testifying something I was praying, and then it was so weird, Kero Ani. Kamal started looking at the flights, and Nomsa, if you need me, honestly, it was so weird. What I've been praying, like asking God, and he was like, so if you really need any help, like if anything happens and you need somebody, agent is looking for the flight and the prices, and I was like, God, what is going on here? He's looking at the prices and he's telling me, so I'm going for a run. I'm like, he was actually testifying that whatever I'm praying for, it will come to pass. And I was like, I need to enjoy my life while I can. I was like, I need to enjoy my life with my friends while I can, because there will be times where I'm going to be really busy. And Kamau has just confirmed that. And because of my thoughts, where my thoughts have been, and my feelings, how I'm feeling about my life and how I'm asking God. And Kamau is sitting there, is just confirming everything. So I'm thinking, what is going on? I didn't say anything to him yesterday. I just sat there and I was like, okay, if he's a blessing, if I is the one that I'm going to call out, or there's people that I'm going to call out and say, guys, let's do this. He's testifying. So I say, amen. So that's what life is about. Like when you're telling the story, Kamau, about the children having marshmallows and stuff, life is about just being patient and doing things. Like now we're doing the business, we're talking. There's some times where we have to be patient about things. But it's not easy for a human being to be patient anyway. I've learned it the hard way. Honestly, I've realized I was torturing myself for wanting things to happen now. But now I'm not in that level where I want everything to happen. I just pray about it. And also it's Carol Ann who made me realize before that when something happened, and then I told you about the prayer, and then you said, I think now, Nomsa, you need to realize when you're praying for something, when the events are presented to you, you need to go back to the prayer where you're asking for. Yeah, so that's when it made me realize yesterday with my thoughts that Kamau is just confirming everything, my wish and my desires. And unknowingly, he doesn't know that this is what was in my thoughts. He didn't know that that was my prayer. So thoughts can become things, and patience is very, very important in managing your emotions. It's not something that happens overnight. It's taken me over 10 years to actually to be in the level where I am with my thoughts and my emotions. So if somebody really wants to work on their emotions, work on your thoughts, and be in the present moment, you can do it. It can happen. And Kamal, I'm waiting for my testimony because you confirmed my blessings yesterday unknowingly. So I'm excited. Over to you, Carol Ann. It's 2:05 now. Do you want to tell the audience who you are, or words of encouragement, please, and where they can find you?
Yes, I'm Caroline Cooper, the writing facilitator. And transforming, there's a whole lot of things are transforming, so I just leave it there. You can find me on Facebook or LinkedIn. And I do actually have a Facebook group called Get Your Book Written. And what I'd just like to leave you with is a quote by Elizabeth Gilbert. Your emotions are the slaves of your thoughts, and you are the slave of your emotions.
That is powerful. I refuse to be a slave of my emotions and my thoughts.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Let me compliment your saying with, again, Viktor Frankl. Our greatest freedom is the freedom to choose our attitudes.
Yeah, thank you.
I love that.
Yeah.
And so to everyone, I'm Kamal Amer. I'm a life purpose coach. What I do throughout my life and what I've learned as a training specialist is understanding that people get stuck in mid-management specifically without purpose. And so what I do is I have created a 14-week interactive program that includes cognitive behavior psychology, neurolinguistic programming, and positive psychology, so that I can offer you a foundation to a life of purpose. All of that is also entwined and weaved in the ways of the ancient Egyptians, because they were the experts at living purposefully. You can find me on Instagram, kamal.amer. You can find me on my website, which is running finally, kamalamer.com. You could also find me on LinkedIn and on Facebook. And good day, good evening, and good morning, wherever you may be from my end.
Thank you so much, Kamal and Carol Ann. And guys, we're gonna see you on Sunday. We're here. We're gonna have a talk show on Sunday, so 7 p.m. And it would be lovely if you guys can join us. And we are here at Ngozi Talk Shows Monday to Friday, 1 p.m. UK time. And my website is still not running. And I've had another problem with my emails yesterday. They stopped coming on Wednesday, but apparently this person went in again and tried to hack my emails again. But now, just before I came on, it's fixed. So I'm just having somebody wants to have a ride with me. In a negative way, but I just keep smiling and live with grace, everyone, and God bless.